Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of this summer's adventures in yard sailing. My wife and I went out this past weekend and had a little bit of good luck after a kind of rocky start. We got up super early. She's used to getting up early. For me, like 5:30 is crazy farmer time. I'm more of a nighttime guy. But we got up super early because we wanted to go to a yard sale that was pretty far out and kind of work our way back closer to home as we went. And we specifically decided to do that and go to this one because they listed PS2 games and Wii games and electronics and all kinds of things like that. And if it's specifically listed rather than something that seems like it might have something good, they tend to have more. They tend to be more focused on selling those particular items. And we decided it was a good shot. It was something we could probably, get stuff we wanted. We drove the whole way out there, and as we were driving, we kind of got further and further out of town into farmland, where there's a very big Amish and Mennonite population around where we are, and we got farther and farther into farmland, and we're like, maybe this might not be the best place for electronics, I don't know. So we got there, pull up, and they had basically some really rundown looking farm equipment. Nothing that even looks like, I don't know, nothing there really looked like it was in good shape overall. Some old kids' toys and things, and they didn't have a single Wii game. And we got there really early, before they were supposed to even start, so it wasn't like someone picked through it. And they had maybe a handful of PS2 games. Most of them were in those little yellow GameStop sleeves where they're just trying to get rid of like loose discs that tend to be scratched up. And they were all like completely just scratched to hell. And they weren't even good games to start with. Mostly like kids games, not even like collectible kids games. Like they weren't tied into a particular franchise or anything, and some really just generic sports games. So absolutely nothing. And not only were majority of them in those little yellow sleeves, they were water damaged. It was raining a little bit that morning, and it was still very just kind of wet, and there was like a heavy like dew still on the grass. It was really early, and it was drizzling a little bit. So they were wet, scratched, generic PS2 games, worth nothing. And it was just nuts. It was crazy because we went the whole way out there. I was so mad because it was so early, and I hadn't had any like caffeine or anything yet. And we drove the whole way out there, and nothing, absolutely nothing. And we went to the next yard sale. This is just not a good sign. And the next closest yard sale, we did find some stuff that, again, for some reason, had some water damage. But thankfully, what we found was perfect on the inside. Anything that was water damaged was on the outside, and I was able to get a handful of games. I think they're about $2 a piece, so that's a pretty good deal for these. We got Forgotten Realms, Demon's Stone on PS2, and I already did have a copy of this game. It doesn't have a cover with a little bit of water damage, just like a little like warped, like it looks like it was just in a very kind of moist environment for a while. The disc is perfectly fine. It looks like wherever they were, nothing got on the inside. The disc and the inside is perfectly fine, and the manual is in perfect shape. There's absolutely no like moisture damage at all. And the copy that I have doesn't have a manual, so that was a good find for $2. At the same place, we also got The House of the Dead 3 on the original Xbox, and Kingsfield: The Ancient City, which is Kingsfield 4. And that to me was my favorite find of the day, actually, because I liked the Kingsfield series, and I never played Kingsfield 4. For those of you who don't know, Kingsfield is the Dark Souls and Demon Souls and things like that, and Bloodborne is the successor series to the Kingsfield series, and it's actually a little bit closer to the Shadow Tower spinoff. And one of my first reviews that I ever did was a review of Eternal Ring, which was the first entry in the Kingsfield series on PS2, and this is the second entry on the PS2 and the final entry in the actual Kingsfield series, the original series. And last thing we found at that yard sale, which was in the worst condition, sadly, is this completely torn to shreds. Look at this cover. It's horrible. It is the Platinum version of the Game of the Year, The Elder Scrolls Morrowind. And I was excited to find it. If it had just been regular Morrowind, I would not have gotten it, just because again, the case is destroyed. The manual is in perfect condition, and the disc is in perfect condition, and that's why I got it, because I do not have a copy of the Game of the Year edition yet. So this has all of the additional side quests and everything. It has Tribunal and Blood Moon, so it has all of the expansion sets in it. So the game is perfectly fine, and sadly though, the cover, I don't even know how they completely destroyed it, because in each one of these, the plastic around the cover is in perfect shape, and somehow any moisture, whatever damage this was, got underneath the plastic and destroyed the covers, but didn't get into the actual cases at all. There's no mold or mildew or anything wrong inside. It's very odd. So we left there and ended up going to a massive community yard sale and found a few just kind of odd things. This one lady had a big box, a big cardboard box full of all those old McDonald's and Burger King toys from the 90s, and strangely they were actually all in their original packaging. They weren't loose or anything. She had to just either got a bunch of them somewhere herself or just was holding on to them for decades, who knows. But we only ended up picking up 2. We got something from Power Rangers, the movie, and something from Small Soldiers. There wasn't a lot we were super interested in. For that type of thing, it's got to be something that has a particular sense of nostalgia for us, or something that we know is worth something. And there wasn't a whole lot there. There's a lot of sort of generic stuff or stuff we already had, but those 2 were very nice. My wife picked out the Power Rangers one. I picked up Small Soldiers because I really loved that movie as a kid and had a little bit of a crush on Kirsten Dunst when I was watching that. So, and for that same lady, I found something that was a more interesting find for me. I'm not a big Hot Wheels guy. I never, even as a kid, wasn't too much. I'm not really a car person. As long as it gets me from point A to point B without breaking down, that's about as much as I care. But I found a Shaman King Hot Wheels set that has 2 cars with Shaman King like decals on it and a giant sticker. So that was pretty cool, especially sealed and packaging. This is not something I'd be opening because, yeah, don't really care that much about it, but really, really cool and interesting Shaman King. It looks like I said there's also a Mega Man and a Yu-Gi-Oh! Advertised on the back there. So I got the coolest of the 3 for me. So I did like Shaman King back in the day when I was on TV in the late 90s. And the last finds that we had, I kind of left my wife to walk around and finish the last bit of yard sales as I went off to find a restroom, and when I came back she had a few good finds. Tony Hawk's Underground for the Xbox, the first one here, and the lady actually had a couple of games shoved in with her DVDs, and it was odd because she had her DVDs at a yard sale marked for $5 a piece, which is nuts for a yard sale. $5 a piece for a DVD. But the games, she gave Underground to my wife for free because the disc is a little scratched. I mean, it's definitely still probably looks playable, but for free, might as well. And then for, I think, $2, my wife said, Perfect Dark Zero, the collector's edition with the outer sleeve and the really nice like tin, like metallic case, and has all the extra features. It's a complete collector's edition. So to get this and a copy of Underground for $2, can't really beat that. So that was it for that weekend. Some pretty good finds. It was, again, one of those weekends where it wasn't anything super spectacular. It was more fun just to kind of be out with the wife for the morning, but some really interesting stuff, especially this like Shaman King thing. It's something unique I never knew existed, and getting a copy of The Ancient City finally and having a chance to check that out. Some pretty interesting stuff, and I will kind of set this aside and cut to the next weekend or two, just so I'm not constantly like, oh, this is what I got this weekend and this weekend. You know, it's going to be yard sales all summer. So this is it for right now, and I will cut to the next weekend in a couple of seconds. So the next weekend has passed, and the next batch of yard sales has come and gone, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what we ended up getting. It was actually kind of an interesting weekend because we plotted out the night before a bunch of different yard sales we wanted to go to, and we ended up going to, I think, 4 or 5 that we had listed out, and only getting one thing. We got one Star Trek Next Generation book here, another one to add to the collection, and that was about it, a like 50-cent book. Out of all those yard sales, one of them didn't even exist. We got there, and it was one that was held Friday, Saturday, and we're just sort of assuming that they probably sold everything they wanted Friday and didn't take signs down or anything and decided not to set up on Saturday because there was nothing there, and it was maybe 9:30 in the morning, so it was kind of that middle time where they had to have been set up and nothing there. But luckily, we ended up actually getting stuff at yard sales we didn't plan to go to, ones we just kind of found along the way, and one that we actually found we were going to go to Goodwill after we kind of gave up yard sailing. It was almost approaching noontime, and we'd kind of gone everywhere we wanted, and we just happened to find a place between our place and going to Goodwill. And that's where we found some really great stuff. The first thing we found that my wife actually noticed was a Game Boy Secret Codes, just like a little like cheat book And we also found a Secret Codes 2002 that has cheats for PlayStation, PlayStation 2, Game Boy Color, Advance, Xbox, GameCube, Dreamcast, and N64. And these may seem kind of stupid to you younger viewers. Why would you need a little book of cheats? Why would you want to actually pay, this is like $8 for this one? Because you can just go online. Well, you couldn't always go online, and even as far as 2002, not everyone was on the internet, and there weren't quite as many sites and quite as many ways to find cheat codes. And even though I'm not really one to use a lot of cheats, I hate the way it takes that feeling of like an accomplishment out if using a cheat just to get past something because it's difficult. I do like cheats that have very interesting effects on games. Something like, I'll do a video looking at some of the interesting cheats in here, particularly stuff with Tony Hawk, where you can kind of strip the game down to like a wireframe, or you can get down to like the next level of like before they go in and do any shading or detail, and just different little cheats that have interesting effects that aren't really positives that get you help you progress through the gameplay. They aren't things that are going to give you infinite health or infinite ammo or help you skip a level or something. They're things that just are odd, interesting, or funny effects. Those are the kind of cheats that I enjoy, and I like having these because it is a bit of a nostalgia factor. I mean, getting them for what, 25 cents a piece, I think, maybe 50 cents at most, is interesting enough for this nostalgia factor. Yeah, I can still go online and get the exact same material, but there's just something nice about having it on the bookshelf and picking it out and just getting sort of a blast from the past with these types of things. And the better find at that exact same place was we found a dot hack manga, a volume 1 of Legend of Twilight, which is great, and 4 Full Metal Alchemist light novels, not manga, but like actual, books. And that was even cooler. And they are basically brand new. I don't know if you can really tell on the camera here, but there's not a single crease. I mean, the pages looks like they've never been read. And we think we know why. They all have the Borders sticker on the back, and probably like everyone else, like ourselves included, we just sort of raided Borders when they went out of business. And especially the manga, like I'd go and get a few, and then the next week things went down to like 70%, 30% off, 40% off, 50, whatever, and the last day just sort of grabbing whatever. And we're starting to find now at yard sales, and hopefully at the upcoming like big book sale in our area, that a lot of people kind of want a little too nuts when Borders closed down, and they're probably kind of putting the stuff back out there, realizing they're not actually going to read everything they got, or they don't even really want the things they grabbed just because they grabbed them because they're a good deal. And we're starting to see more and more things with a Borders label stuck on the back, sort of showing up in yard sales and different sales like that in used bookstores. So hopefully that means there's going to be a little bit of a refuel on the book selection, because it's gotten a little slim over the years, especially at the annual book sale near us. So we're hoping that's really going to sort of restock everything and give us some great deals on books. Another thing that we found, I told you we ended up at Goodwill at the end of the day, we found something really interesting that I've never seen before. My wife's never seen before either. We actually had to look it up to figure out what exactly they were. But we found a set of 7 Goosebumps books, which in itself is obviously nothing stellar, although we do want to have all of the original books from our childhood. These are hardback Goosebumps books, and neither of us had ever seen them before, and we couldn't figure out, we had never seen in stores, never heard of a printing, and they weren't an official printing. They were a private school. You could tell on the information that's in the covers. So there's all these academy numbers and library cards, and you could look everything up online. And it turns out that a private school had these rebound by a professional binding company that will rebind softcover books into hardcover books, particularly for elementary schools and middle schools. That's a really good idea. Break down on wear and tear. Lots of little kids reading and borrowing these books are going to last longer, and even though it can be somewhat of a costly process, it's going to save the school money in the long run, because they're not going to have to replace books or buy just brand new ones just because old books have been destroyed over the years. So it was a really cool addition to the collection, and it was nice because these are mostly ones that we already have the original first print editions when we were kids. So it's nice to have these really good hardcovers that are in fantastic shape. So that was a cool find. And probably the most interesting find of the day for me is something you'll see added behind me here, that's not normally in the background if you've been watching my videos, we found a PlayStation stand, and my wife went ahead while I was at work the other day and sort of set it all up for me, and I'll give you a quick look here. Alright, so here you can see on the side, it says PlayStation, nice big black media stand, and these side things here are actually meant for guitars for Guitar Hero, but I really don't care about Guitar Hero, and they look great with the, these are the Sega Saturn light guns, so they're a really cool stand for 2 of those, and up top, I'm using those for a couple of extra controllers. I'm kind of running out of room in my controller bins, so it was nice to put just a handful of them there. We have just a regular PS2 controller, an original PS1 before the DualShock, and an off-brand PS1 controller, one of the program pads. So we have all that here, and then I'm using it right now to store my PSP games. Not a whole ton there, and there's one random lone PS3 game sitting there on top, but so there are my PSP games sitting there, and it fits perfectly. It's actually built for PS3 games, but I decided that the PSP fit perfectly in there, and a little bit of room to grow up on top there, like a second row. So that was pretty cool find. Really enjoyed that, and we got it for I think about $5 from a couple, and it was in perfect shape, just needed to be dusted. So that was probably my favorite find of that day. Yet another week has gone by. This is the third and final segment in this episode of Adventures in Yardsaling. It's been 3 full weeks, and this is definitely by far the best find I've ever had at a yard sale. Everything we got this weekend was from one singular yard sale, and it's still more than we found at everything else, like every other video, even the past yard selling video put together. And I actually ended up going by myself. My wife worked in the morning, so she couldn't go with me. I worked my normal afternoons. I had to squeeze it in before I went to work. And I really had to push it because this yard sale was half an hour away, and that sounds ludicrous, but it was the most sure thing I think I've ever seen for a yard sale listing. This guy was a former collector, and I have no idea why he was getting rid of his collection. It looked like he was getting rid of just about everything. I mean, who knows what happened. I didn't really want to pry or get into it, even though I was very curious. But he had on his listing how he was a former video game collector. Everything was in really good condition. He had hundreds of games, and he had some consoles left, and even mentioned how he had kind of sold off a lot of the stuff where he had very specific buyers for, or stuff he knew he could sell easily, and it was just sort of everything that was left of his collection, and he just wanted it gone. He was going to sell everything absolutely just bottom line cheap. He wanted to just get rid of stuff, and he really did just want to get rid of stuff. I mean, I can't believe what I paid, and I just put a specific, limit on myself in my wallet because I knew he was going to have tons of stuff, and I knew no matter what, it was worth the drive because I was going to come back with something. I didn't think I was going to come back with everything I came back with, but I knew it was a guaranteed something. So it was worth the drive, worth the adventure, worth going out to an area I didn't really know much about and finding my way and getting partially lost for a few minutes, but it was a lot of fun. And I go up, and he had very strictly listed 10 a.m., which is kind of late for a yard sale, and no early birds, and just it sounded, do not show up. And I actually showed up around 9, just because I wanted to leave myself a little bit of extra time in case I got more lost than I actually did, since I didn't really know where I was going, and it was really far away. And when I showed up, there was already a couple approaching his stand, which he was in the middle of setting up. He was maybe halfway done, and they started looking through stuff, and he didn't shoo them away. He started talking to him a little bit, and he was bringing his stuff out a little more quickly, so I was like, well, alright, well, I'll get out of my car, and I'm going. And by the time I got up there, they already picked up an original Xbox and an entire box of Xbox games. And it was nuts, because there was still probably 50-60 games left, and he was still bringing games out. He ended up, by the time I left, he probably put out over 100 games, and I think he might have had a little bit more, but it was nuts. And he even had a few boxes of other stuff, so I ended up picking up a whole bunch of Goosebumps books. Not sure how we've been lucky to find a lot of Goosebumps stuff lately, and we've almost put together an entire collection of the old, like from our elementary school days, Goosebumps books. So a whole bunch of them, 25 cents a piece. That was a really good deal there. And then everything else was video game related. I ended up picking up a Sega Dreamcast magazine and 2 Sakura Tyson DVDs. Somehow, I don't know how, but like anything involving this series has lately just been sort of finding its way to me. There's this like magnetism now that I've discovered it. I'm just finding all of it. I don't know how, but somehow this like Dreamcast passion I've been building has just been reaching out into the nether realm and pulling it all towards me and building that collection. So I ended up getting that. I got Dead or Alive Ultimate, the double pack, the big wide double pack here, which is really great because it is Dead or Alive 1 sort of repolished and redone up to the level of Dead or Alive 2, and they both have a little bit extra content. Some of it is more geared towards online matches, but there's enough to warrant the purchase just for the updated visuals on Dead or Alive 1 and the additional levels and other content in Dead or Alive 2. It's a really cool double pack, and now I have all the original Xbox Dead or Alives. End up picking that up, and I ended up getting, my wife and I are big fans of the show MASH. MASH is easily one of my favorite shows of all time, and I never knew there was a game for it. There's actually an Atari game of MASH, and ended up grabbing that. It was labeled $1, and this shows you like what this guy did. This is one of 2 items he gave to me for free, just because I was grabbing stuff, and he's like, it was $1, I'll just give it to you for free. He was just really just getting rid of stuff. And besides that, I found the only other 2 systems. Like I said, that couple picked up the Xbox. I think he was able to sell off the majority of his consoles beforehand and was just left with a lot of games. The only other 2 that were left were, there were 2 Super Nintendos left over, and this one he labeled just for parts, and he gave this one to me for free because I was getting the other one that's in working condition. And as you can see, the one that's in working condition is like horribly yellowed, and I'll be able to fix some of it, and even though it won't be anywhere near the original actual like nice gray color, I can at least prevent it from getting worse and starting to chip. So just getting it for the price that this was, just getting a working Super Nintendo was an incredible deal. And I'll probably just end up switching the bodies, the top, from the non-working one to the working one, because this one's in a little bit better condition. It's still yellowed, but not as bad, and it's a little more reversible. So, and this actually gives me hope too, because this is a free Super Nintendo, and he admitted that it didn't work, but he didn't even try and find out why. He just plugged it in, tried a couple games, and couldn't get it to work. It was powering up, but not getting any picture, and he didn't really try to figure out what was really wrong with it. So after I open it up, I haven't really looked through it yet, it might honestly be an easy fix, so it might be something that I got a second one for free that probably I can get to work. Doesn't look like there's anything really obviously wrong with it. Just check it out internally and see what's going on. So 2 Super Nintendos for almost nothing. And along with that, I ended up picking up only 2 Super Nintendo games. They had quite a few, but not a lot that really interested me, or there were a couple RPGs that were some of the few games that he actually had priced more than a couple dollars, so I ended up not picking those up. But I got the Pink Panther Goes to Hollywood, and for my wife, I got the original Pilot Wings. She's a huge fan. She loves Pilot Wings on N64, so I ended up getting her this. She's never experienced it before, so hopefully she'll like it. And moving on to some of the best finds. Oh, before I get to that, actually, I ended up picking up just a regular DS pouch, and had it not had the Mario on it, being just a regular pouch, just as like DS on the side, I wouldn't have picked it up, even though it was only $1. But just having the Mario makes it interesting enough to pick up, even though we already have a case for the DS. It's still pretty nice. And again, moving on to the best finds, Doom for the 32X. And not only is it 100% complete and in perfect condition, there's not a single line or crease or bend or anything on the cardboard outer shell, and it's even in this plastic protector's case. You put all that in there, just threw the case in with it, and perfect condition, basically brand new. And the last couple of games here, I was able to find Final Zone 2 for the TurboGrafx 16, and I was very, very happy to find this. I mean, based on the cover art, I probably wouldn't have picked it up if I didn't know what it was, but thanks to the Happy Console Gamer's review of this game, I had to get it. It's absolutely hilarious. I can't wait to put this one in. And the English copy of Cosmic Fantasy 2, and I have it in Japanese, and I didn't have it in English, so I got this, and thank you to Working Designs for bringing this over, even though they only brought one of the 5 games over, Cosmic Fantasy 2. They never brought over the rest. Not sure what happened there, but hey, at least they got the rights to this one and brought that one over, so that's nice. And the last 2 games that I picked up were both brand new sealed, which is fantastic, and I don't know how that happened. But I got Tengai Makio Kabuki Den, I don't know why. I'm thinking of something else. But Tengai Makio Kabuki Den, completely sealed, brand new for the PC Engine. And I also got a game I didn't really know much about. I'd heard of it and I'd seen a little bit of information, but there's not a lot of information. At least in English there's almost no information. I had to look up some Japanese stuff. But a Dracula Detective on the Sega Saturn, and as you can see I haven't opened these up yet. I plan on doing that pretty soon. Definitely not going to keep them sealed. And all of that, just an unbelievable find. And I got to tell you, I didn't spend much. I really didn't spend much. A couple of these things were free. A couple of them were $1 or less. I mean, he was really just kind of getting rid of stuff and just getting a little bit of money. You know, his collection must have been massive, because just in what I got, that's, you know, 6 or 7 different systems represented, and he had other things that I didn't pick up. So he had to have had a really just varied and large collection that he had sold the majority of the important, more expensive stuff off. So amazing finds, well worth a half hour there and a half hour back. I mean, fantastic stuff I never expected, even though I knew it was a sort of a sure thing. I was thinking I might pick up like 2 really good finds, not over a dozen really good finds. I mean, just easily the best yard sale I've ever been to, and fantastic experience, and he seemed like a nice guy. It was a fun trip. So that was sort of the pickups for the last 3 weeks. A lot of crazy good deals. I'm not sure how, you know, the summer could ever top this, but who knows? It's only May, so, well, May when this uploads. So yeah, who knows what's going to happen in the future, and eventually I'll do another yard sailing video a month or 2 from now. So until then, happy yard sailing, have fun, and let me know below if there's any of these items, yet again, that you would like to hear more about, or let me know what you've had as far as good luck with yard sales, or have you had really terrible luck. So leave a comment, make a response video, just let me know what's been up with your summer and what you've added to your collection, and thank you for watching.